From a notorious prison to a powerful symbol of justice, President Trump is reviving Alcatraz. Announcing plans to rebuild this iconic island as a fortress for America's most dangerous criminals, Trump aims to restore law and order while redefining a legend. But what does this mean for immigration, justice, and Alcatraz's storied legacy? Join us as we explore Trump's bold vision to transform the Rock into a new totem of American strength. On May 4th, President Trump simultaneously posted on Truth Social and X platforms announcing his plan to rebuild and open Alcatraz. He wrote, "For too long, America has been plagued by vicious, violent, and repeat criminal offenders, the dregs of society, who will never contribute anything other than misery and suffering. When we were a more serious nation, in times past, we did not hesitate to lock up the most dangerous criminals and keep them far away from anyone they could harm. That's the way it's supposed to be. No longer will we tolerate these serial offenders who spread filth, bloodshed, and mayhem on our streets. That is why, today, I am directing the Bureau of Prisons, together with the Department of Justice, FBI, and Homeland Security, to reopen a substantially enlarged and rebuilt Alcatraz to house America's most ruthless and violent offenders. We will no longer be held hostage to criminals, thugs, and judges that are afraid to do their job and allow us to remove criminals who came into our country illegally. The reopening of Alcatraz will serve as a symbol of law, order, and justice." When asked by the media, "Why reopen Alcatraz?" President Trump stated that it was due to many radical judges. They want to put everything on trial, to try every illegal immigrant, which would mean millions of trials.
And it's long been a symbol, Alcatraz, of whatever it is. I mean, it's a sad symbol, but it's a symbol of law and order. And, it's got quite a history, frankly. So I think we're going to do that, and we're looking...
Alcatraz Island, commonly known as the Rock, which President Trump mentioned, was named by the 18th century Spanish explorer Juan Manuel de Ayala due to the large number of pelicans on the island. Located in San Francisco Bay, California, approximately 2.4 kilometers from downtown San Francisco, the island spans just 22 acres. Surrounded by the cold, turbulent waters of the Pacific Ocean, its isolated geographical position, accessible only by ferry, made it an ideal location for a prison. San Francisco's Alcatraz sits in shark-infested waters, making it an ideal detention site for America's most wanted criminals. However, this maximum security prison was not built overnight. After the devastating San Francisco earthquake in 1906, the city's prisons became overwhelmed and needed relocation. Sheriff Thomas O'Neill devised a plan to transfer prisoners to Alcatraz. At the time, Alcatraz was a military prison, originally used to guard the strait between the Pacific Ocean and San Francisco Bay. If O'Neill's plan to transfer prisoners to Alcatraz was to proceed, the prison needed to be rebuilt to make it more manageable and secure. The military hired architectural expert Major Reuben Turner, who spent $250,000 to reconstruct the prison. Turner's solution was not to demolish the entire fortress, but to remove the top 2 floors, preserve the basement, and build a new reinforced concrete structure on top, a new prison with 600 cells, surrounded by a 500-foot-long concrete building. The newly constructed Alcatraz prison was dubbed the ultimate maximum security prison at the time, regarded as a cage for America's most notorious public enemies. Alcatraz housed numerous high-profile criminals, including Chicago mob boss Al Capone, Los Angeles gang leader Mickey Cohen, and Prohibition-era gangster Machine Gun Kelly, George Kelly. These criminals, transferred to Alcatraz due to their violent crimes or unmanageable behavior, were subdued by the prison's harsh environment, which effectively curbed their arrogance. Although Alcatraz was called the ultimate maximum security prison, during its operation as a federal prison from 1934 to 1963, 36 prisoners attempted 14 escapes. Most were either recaptured or killed during these attempts. However, there was an exception. On a summer night in 1962, 3 prisoners' escapes shattered the prison's inescapable reputation. In 1962, Frank Lee Morris and his 2 accomplices attempted to escape, and their whereabouts remain a mystery to this day. The FBI presumes they drowned, but the case remains unsolved and the U.S. Marshals Service still lists them as wanted. The 1979 Hollywood film Escape from Alcatraz, based on this real-life escape, depicts their escape process in detail, how they dug tunnels with rudimentary tools, crafted dummy heads, and made inflatable rafts. Starring Hollywood's iconic tough guy Clint Eastwood, the film is considered a classic of the Alcatraz genre, vividly recreating the prison's harsh conditions. As mentioned earlier, President Trump's primary reason for restarting Alcatraz is to address the legal challenges of deporting illegal immigrant criminals. Closing the border and deporting illegal immigrants are core campaign promises of Trump. However, their implementation has been repeatedly obstructed by left-leaning federal judges. So far, the number of illegal immigrants at the U.S.-Mexico border has significantly decreased, remaining at historic lows from February to April 2025, with monthly encounters ranging from 7,000 to 8,400, a roughly 95% drop compared to 137,473 in March 2024. Illegal immigrants are turning back before even reaching the U.S.-Mexico border. The number of migrants crossing Panama's Darien Gap has plummeted by 99.99%. During an interview on May 4th, President Trump stated that the deportation efforts had achieved historic success, but the due process requirements have made deportations inefficient, potentially requiring countless trials. So, they come into our country illegally, and then we're supposed to take weeks, I guess, and months to have a trial on every criminal that we have, murderers all over the country. I don't think the Supreme Court will stand for that. I can't believe it, because you know what? If they do, we're not going to have a country. This is why Trump proposed detaining illegal immigrant criminals who cannot be immediately deported in Alcatraz, bypassing cumbersome judicial procedures. As we mentioned in previous programs, the Trump administration, upon taking office, invoked the 1798 Alien Enemies Act to target illegal immigrants involved in gang activities, such as Venezuela's Tren de Aragua and El Salvador's MS-13 gang members, organizing large-scale deportation operations involving the Border Patrol, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Justice, and even the military. However, some left-leaning federal judges have demanded adherence to so-called deportation procedures, significantly increasing the cost and complexity of deporting illegal immigrants, while these gang members pose a growing threat to the safety of American communities and citizens. However, a CNN report citing a Washington Post poll conducted in April 2025 shows that 56% of respondents support the policy of deporting all approximately 11 million illegal immigrants. This figure is a significant increase from 38% in 2016, reflecting a shift in American public opinion on immigration policy, indicating growing understanding and support for the Trump administration's measures. The poll also shows that support for deportation is highest among Republican voters at 86%, followed by 58% of independent voters, while only 25% of Democrats support the policy. This public support will further encourage and facilitate the Trump administration's efforts to overcome obstacles and implement large-scale deportation policies to protect American communities and citizens' safety. Rebuilding and reopening Alcatraz can be seen as the latest response to this issue. However, President Trump, a businessman by background, will undoubtedly first consider the economic implications before rebuilding and reopening Alcatraz. Rebuilding Alcatraz prison faces multiple challenges, including high reconstruction and operational costs, coordination with the National Park Service, and the complexity of legal procedures. The primary reason for closing the prison back then was the high maintenance costs due to material transportation and erosion from sea winds. Today, as a popular tourist attraction, Alcatraz generates significant economic benefits. In 2020, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Alcatraz, as a tourist attraction, was closed for most of the year. According to National Park Service statistics, visitor numbers dropped sharply in 2020, estimated at only 300,000 to 500,000, far below the usual 1.4 million to 1.7 million in normal years. As pandemic restrictions gradually eased, Alcatraz reopened in the spring of 2021, but visitor numbers still did not return to pre-pandemic levels. According to NPS statistics, 2021 saw approximately 800,000 to 1 million visitors. 2023 marked the 50th anniversary of Alcatraz as a national park, attracting over 1.4 million visitors, nearing pre-pandemic levels, with annual revenue of about $60 million. Alcatraz's tourism revenue is not only a vital funding source for the Golden Gate National Recreation Area, but also supports the tourism economy of the San Francisco Bay Area. It is reported that of the $60 million annual revenue, most is used for maintaining island facilities, preserving historical sites, and supporting ecological projects, such as protecting seabird habitats. However, this year, due to Trump's plan to restart the prison, there may be many uncertainties. Nevertheless, as a master of business operations, President Trump will likely consider how to generate more revenue while rebuilding Alcatraz prison, an aspect that is undoubtedly a key part of his overall plan. The movie industry in America is dying a very fast death, Trump wrote. Other countries are offering all sorts of incentives to draw our filmmakers and studios away from the United States. Hollywood and many other areas within the USA are being devastated. This is a concerted effort by other nations and therefore a national security threat. It is, in addition to everything else, messaging and propaganda. Therefore, I am authorizing the Department of Commerce and the United States Trade Representative to immediately begin the process of instituting a 100% tariff on any and all movies coming into our country that are produced in foreign lands. We want movies made in America again. Trump believes that the American film industry has lost significant production business due to tax incentives and subsidies from foreign governments, such as tax credits and cash rebates offered by Canada, the UK, Australia, etc., resulting in a nearly 40% decline in film production in Los Angeles and other areas. According to Film LA data, over the past decade, film production in Los Angeles has decreased by nearly 40%, while global spending on content production is expected to reach $248 billion in 2025. Trump views foreign films as propaganda tools, arguing that they represent not only economic competition but also messaging and ideological propaganda. This aligns with the law and order symbolism of reopening Alcatraz. On May 5th, he also mentioned that Alcatraz draws inspiration in part from the film industry, calling it a powerful force of law and order, and referencing cultural symbols like the movie Escape from Alcatraz. In January this year, Trump appointed actors Jon Voight, Sylvester Stallone, and Mel Gibson as special ambassadors for Hollywood, aiming to revitalize the American film industry. So, could the further development of film production and commercial opportunities, including tourism, tied to Alcatraz, the symbol of law and order, be part of Trump's future plans? However, there are dissenting opinions. Former Commerce Department official William Reinsch stated that retaliatory tariffs on foreign countries could destroy the American film industry, as the industry relies heavily on international markets. In 2024, North American box office revenue was $8.8 billion, while international markets contributed $21.1 billion. He believes that movies are difficult to justify as a national security or emergency issue. What are your thoughts on President Trump's plan to rebuild and reopen Alcatraz? We welcome your comments and unique opinions and suggestions. Thanks for you watching. We'll see you next time.